Besides recording.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Seniors do this in the middle of the night. Why, well, I don't understand why this is even. Do you have to have permission to run the snow plows this winter? Well, how was your trip?
Good. Area of it, so which is not to scale. Got it. Okay.
Already doing that.
So that is on the 15 area. And
It's just looking everywhere for that water. Sorry.
it's more this way anyway. And then it's more.
Jeff, do you think there's an extra bottle in the fridge?
I can check.
I can run.
No, you guys.
Near a little bit. So kind of near that tree. It looks like it's
Well, Morrison?
Just go home and help build it here.
No problem.
How are you? Oh, hey, how are you? How are you? Good. Good. You know, on our voicemail. Was listening to today, I had to call you. Yeah, and I'm call it, you see when I run through it, and so I still don't have to. So I'm not sure that.
I just said that there's not any, I'll let Linda know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I heard it. I didn't hear it.
I'm okay, I'll let Linda know, because I'm pretty sorry, I just said it after we know. So,
I'm pushing the button.
Okay. No. It's another he may join us by Zoom.
Do you ever get, or Karen's 25,000 cars?
Hey Barry, we like
I mean. The first page. That's for blah, blah, blah.
Who's here, Bob? Anyone?
Yours. Yes, yes. Yeah, the new building just enabled them to take on 500 more customers. Yeah, it's always hated that. Sometimes I drive accessories.
Yeah.
But we have.
And it was super. Yeah.
I do have.
Sorry.
For guys.
Such a text earlier.
Say again?
Such a text earlier.
I believe he's gonna revise. So right now.
We have a job
It's closer to the street. No.
I got something to attach.
No, I have a Rhode Island.
You know what, I don't get it.
The house exists, there's no garage. It's okay. Well, it's to the side, but it sticks out. But they want to, there's an addition connecting to the house, but we have language in the code that states that it's just detached, so that it can meet the accessory structure setbacks instead of the. Whatever. So he's trying to rectify that, so you can 2 or 3 inside. Location of the house and the lot is. It's easy to go down. So it's trying to gain that extra speed, just go down the road. So I think he's gonna revise that. I'll send that to you.
Area.
So then how's your? Oh, good. Oh, to put it on the planning commission agenda. Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. No, and you think it's a good idea?
I'm trying to
I
answer.
don't see.
And I guess maybe I don't know if this is the question you asked, but all site plans need to be reviewed by the planning commission. We have an exemption for residential. So I have the, but then there's certain triggering things that make it so the planning commission.
So,
Sure. You guys have final say, so that's.
yeah, that's. Definitely. Yeah.
Nice chairs.
These are good.
I mean, that's your place.
Oh, thanks, yeah, Michelle's getting those out. Seems like people been using them.
Have they?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
looks like it. They're getting moved around.
Well, if I know we're gonna be on.
Pretty slow. I mean,
That's okay.
oh, okay.
Sure, yes. Not Christmas, I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're hardy ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Big projects or? Just lots of little stuff.
No, we just got changed by the city.
Marquette?
You can fit the rubber. There's space over here. It's first come, first served. It's a rough crowd. Yeah. Can't see nothing yet. Sure. I can do that. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Just gonna break. 3 minutes. Like, we're able to people introduce themselves. Sure.
I hope not. I think it'll just be.
Yeah. So nice. I take advantage of this last few days.
Wherever you like to be, I think it is.
We have to guess.
I was gonna
Here it is.
sit sideways.
I think it's true. I think the last 2 days. Yes. Right, it's so nice. Just take advantage for sure. No.
Oh, yeah.
But if we had a special before that, you would see. All right, welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, September 15th, 2022 meeting of the City of Harbor Springs Planning Commission. Welcome, thanks for coming out tonight, everybody in person and on online. And what we start with is a roll call. Jeff, you want to take us through it?
Absolutely. Al Dyken. Here. Barry Lustgard.
Here.
Mark Ferday.
Here.
Bill Mulder.
Here.
George Pete. Here. Bob Foman.
Here.
Emily Dubay.
Here.
Vanessa Warren.
Here.
Rick Tarczynski.
Yes.
Everyone is here. We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you, Jeff. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting. Have people had a chance to review those?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is that a motion? Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Emily. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. Good. All right, this is the point where we can have some public comment regarding anything that's not on tonight's agenda. So what's on tonight's agenda is the site plan review for the play equipment at Zorn Park, discussion of short-term rentals, and a discussion of accessory dwelling units / guest quarters. So if you are here and have something to say about a topic other than that the planning commission should know about, this is your time. Anyone online?
This is Tim Patton, a resident of Harbor Springs online.
Not sure why it's coming through my speakers, but Tim, go ahead and speak up so that everybody can hear you.
You just want me to introduce myself?
Please do so. Can you guys hear?
Yes. This is Tim Patton. I'm a resident of Harbor Springs at 251 East Bay Street, and I formerly owned most of the properties across in Zorn Park, except the Stone House. So I have a lot of perspective. But thank you for allowing me to join your meeting.
Hey, Tim, just this is Bill Mulder. For clarification, Is your comment related to the site plan review for Zorn Park?
Yes,
Okay, could you hold that just for a little bit? That's our first agenda item. We just opened it up for public comment for things not on tonight's agenda.
perfect. Thank you
All right,
again.
we will come back to you for sure.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear any other public comment on different topics? Okay, great. Let's get into our first order of business, which is the site plan review for the playground equipment at Lower Zorn Park. And I wanted to give you a little background about the planning commission and what we're up to tonight, just so everybody's caught up. If you don't attend these things regularly, it's hard to keep track of all the different functions in government, who does what and all that. So let me tell you about it very quickly. There are 9 regular members. You see them up here. We have 100% attendance tonight. They're all appointed by city council, and we're all volunteers. Nobody gets any money. We're just here to work for you. And we're appointed by city council, I've said that, and we focus on 2 main things: the zoning code for the city of Harbor Springs and the master plan for the city of Harbor Springs. Those are the 2 documents that our whole existence revolves around. And you'll hear more about those tonight for sure. We tackle some important issues, and they're often difficult, and they're often, the right answer isn't immediately clear. The things we work on are ambiguous. The master plan, we'll hear about it tonight, no doubt, has entries that you could take one way or another, and that's what we'll do tonight. You'll have a chance to comment on those, and so will we. And this group has good chemistry. We disagree plenty of times, but we respect each other and have worked well together. So it's been a good lineup, I think. And we have 3 pretty complicated topics potentially tonight. And so here's how we're going to do it. Number 1, I wanted to be sure you know that the meeting is being recorded. Well, twice it's being recorded. Once, welcome, news. 7 to 4, yep. Welcome. And of course, in our normal method on YouTube, and you'll be able to see this soon. When we get to public comments, the rules are that everybody gets 3 minutes to make a comment about the topic that we're currently discussing. You can't give your time to someone else. That's not like in the House. And you get to make 1 comment on each agenda item. So really get your thoughts together about what you want to say. And speakers will be called upon by me to keep make sure we stay in order. And when you get called on, you can please stand up and introduce yourself, mention your address so that everybody knows who you are and where you're coming from. And speakers to address the members of the Planning Commission, not each other in the audience. And we don't talk back and forth between folks in the audience, just to keep it straight. And a member of the Planning Commission could ask you a question for clarification on your comment, or maybe not, maybe we'll just be silent. And here's the tricky part. It can't really be a 2-way dialogue. Sometimes it's evolved into that when we have more simple issues, and it's more of somebody will ask a question, we talk, we kind of work together, but by the strict rules and in a bigger crowd, then we can't really have 2-way dialogue. So get your thoughts together. You'll address the Planning Commission, and we'll hear you and be very interested in what you have to say. In terms of video participation, we've got some online attendees. I don't know how many, it's like 7 or 8 perhaps. And they'll have the opportunity to speak using exactly the same guidelines. And we're not going to read any chat comments because if you want to speak, you have to introduce yourself and use your real name and have a coherent message and not just random chatter on chat. So then if you're here for one particular agenda item and the meeting goes into a second one, you can feel free to leave. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. It is already hot in here, and so no hard feelings if you want to leave. All right, I have a question to ask the audience. Yes,
If I
Jack.
can just add one last
Please
point.
do.
For the people that are attending via Zoom, there is a button that they can click that will raise their hand, and that'll let me know that they would like to speak, and then we'll call on them when we see that, and they can unmute their microphone at that time.
Great. And Emily Dubé. would you be sure to remind us to call on, to ask for comments from people online?
Yes.
I've forgotten before and want to be sure. Also, George Pete here is going to be running a 3-minute timer for public comments so that everybody gets the same opportunity. Okay, so we have an issue that has some attention and some emotion around it as a first order of business, and it's the Zorn Park site plan review. So I have a question for everyone in the audience and on the phone. Who's here tonight because you want what's best for Harbor Springs?
Hi.
On the phone. Okay, so we all have the same objective.
Yes.
Andy, I just asked the audience if who's here tonight because they have the best interest in Harbor Springs in mind. Who's here to represent that? Everyone raise their hand. Are you in?
I'm in.
Excellent. All right, so the point is, we all have the same objective, but we have some different ideas about what's best for Harbor Springs, and that's always the way it is at Planning Commission. It's always the way it is at Council. So let's have a good dialogue tonight, and we'll figure out the right thing to do based on the rules and the procedures that we have. I have one more thing I need to tell you, and that is I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this issue. And the reason is my wife, Dana Mulder, is the chair of the Parks Commission. They may be taking this thing up in the future. They may not be. I don't know. But I don't want to give anybody any concerns about a married couple. And believe me, we disagree about quite a number of things anyway. So as may be the case with your relationship. So that's what we've got. And the way this thing goes is that, site plan review, we've been asked to run this through our standard process, like we would for you as a business owner or you as a property owner, if you brought a site plan to the Planning Commission to review. So that's what we're going to do. And the way it starts is that the applicant tells us about the request. And then we probably go over to Jeff and or John, and they tell us a little bit about how they view the request. And then we might discuss a little bit, or we might just open up public comment at that point. But the idea is to get a grounding up front so we all know what the facts are and we can react to those. Okay, everybody good? Great. Okay. I should introduce John Michelangelo. So John is our representative from Beckett & Rader, the planning firm that the City of Harbor Springs hires. And he's got quite a number of years in this business and has been a great resource. Jeff Grimm, if you don't know Jeff, Jeff's our zoning administrator for the City of Harbor Springs and assessor. That's right, he wears 2 hats. I think everybody else is a planning commission member. Yes. All right. Jeff, Rachel, John, how do you want to?
Let's start off with Rachel is our parks director, and so she's put together the application or the submittal here. So I think she can introduce the topic of what process they went through and whatnot. So if you'd like to start off with that.
All right. My name is Rachel Rim. I am your local Parks and Recreation Director. So back in 2011, there was playground equipment in the beach area. And then in 2020, it was removed due to high water levels. It was removed with the intent of always moving it to the grass area. So in 2020, the pandemic obviously held up construction. So when I was hired in 2021, the plan was to again proceed with putting it in the grass area. We aligned a donor, we got the parts we needed, we created a plan, we met with a playground inspector, he came on site. We looked at multiple sites, we discussed different parks, we discussed different sites within the park, and we deemed that this was an appropriate space for various reasons. We then had an individual from Beckett & Rader come out who also is a professional who looked at the site, also deemed it appropriate for the playground for multiple reasons. We then staked the site, there was community feedback. We then held a special council meeting, we had public input, and then we decided to wait and not break ground and then bring it to the Planning Commission for further public input. So that is where we are at right now with the project. We're still working with the playground designer on possibly the same location, but different shapes and what we can do to make it a little more organic to the area. I think that pretty much covers it.
John, would you like to tell us about your analysis? Sure can. Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Commission and audience, our review is fairly objective in terms of taking a look at the site plan and how it conforms or does not conform with the zoning ordinance. So it's a matter of looking at it and checking the boxes to make sure that things are taken care of. The piece of property or the proposed playground equipment is proposed to be located on Zorn Park, which is in this location zoned waterfront, part of the waterfront district. Section 50.1501 subparagraph 1 states that municipal beaches and municipal recreation areas are permitted uses in the district. So the playground essentially is a permitted use in this district. We did take a look at it relative to its consistency with the community master plan that was recently adopted. And it really meets, in our opinion, 4 of the goals. One is goal number 4, local recreation facilities will be conveniently located. We'll continue to establish Harbor Springs as a work and play destination for year-round seasonal residents. Goal 9 is residents and visitors will enjoy a vibrant waterfront area that's integrated into and easily accessible from adjacent districts and neighborhoods. And goal number 10, any harbor development or redevelopment should strive to maintain open views to and from the water for the public to enjoy and support a sustainable level of human use. The analysis that we performed was the playground equipment and the site that it's located on is fairly small. The size of the footprint, which is identified on the aerial photograph on the first page of our analysis, looks like it's large, but it basically allows for the placement of the various pieces of equipment and their respective safety zone they call it the fall zone for the children. We're talking about swings. There's a slide. There's a couple of spring-loaded bouncy animals. And according to best practices, there's a safety area around each of those pieces of play equipment if a child falls. So those have been met. The design of the playground was done by a professional from Landscape Structures that is a certified playground safety inspector. So it meets those requirements. Person on our staff also has that designation. They reviewed the plan, said it's very consistent with best practices. In our opinion, the playground is a permitted use. It relocates a former playground which was impacted by high water. So by relocating it somewhat inland and adjacent to the current swimming area, it brings it away from the high water level, which is really what is referred to as a coastal resiliency strategy. So you're placing public assets along the waterfront, but outside the high water, the extreme high water mark, in order to protect the community asset. The placement of it, if you look on the aerial photograph, is in the corner of Zorn Park, which allows the balance of the park to remain open as a gathering place for the community. And the access significantly improves ADA and universal accessibility, because when it was placed in its former location, it wasn't necessarily accessible to folks that have an physical impairment. And in our opinion, based on the goals of the master plan, it's consistent with the goals in the master plan of creating a vibrant waterfront that's accessible to the neighbors and to residents. So from a very objective point of view, the proposal satisfies those requirements in our opinion. So, planning commissioners, we just heard John mention both the zoning code as well as the master plan, and in search of how this proposal interacts with those. Do you have any questions for John or Rachel about this project, about the design, about?
Rachel, will there be sidewalks and will this be ADA accessible?
Are there places in this park where those standards could not be met?
Probably not. Probably all the locations in the park that have proximity to the sidewalks could meet the standards. I think the location that they picked was probably to ensure that there's enough open space left in the park. So by placing that in the middle of the park, that would have obstructed other uses that could have occurred in the park. So by drawing it close to where they located it, you can see that a significant amount of the park is still open for open space and for informal gatherings. One of the issues that sometimes comes up is about, how does this impact the view shed? Our review would have been different if the city was proposing to build a restroom facility at that location, because that's a solid structure. Playgrounds are very transparent. It's just a series of playground equipment pipes. There's a couple of bouncy, I don't know what they refer to them, but spring animals that sit about 3 feet off the ground. So there's not much there from a view to obstruct the view shed, other than the fact that there may be kids playing on it during the summertime. Yeah. But it's not like placing a opaque structure like a restroom or a maintenance building on the property, which then would obstruct views of the harbor and other accessibility issues to the park.
It does seem like that location they chose, I like it because just from a safety perspective, it's away from the road, it's close to where all the people are on the beach, it's not on the edges and corners and stuff like that. So, but it's not central out in the middle of all the green space, wreck all that. So I like the location of it.
I thought the location
Makes sense.
was appropriate. Yeah.
Just whether or not it would be more organic, maybe it flows a little bit more, but
So, in a site plan review, when a business owner or a resident or property owner brings something to the planning commission, we're bound to review it as presented and as requested. And so we cannot say to an applicant, for instance, hey, don't you own another piece of property in the city? We think your business would be better there. Can't say that. We can only react to the proposal exactly as it's formed and requested here at the city. So we as a planning commission can't say you ought to put it somewhere else today. We can't say that. That's if that's a possibility, it's an issue for council and city staff. And so that's our focus tonight is very narrow. It may be kind of frustrating because we'd all like to engineer this thing somewhat better, but we can't. All we can do is approve or deny this site plan request, just like we would if you brought one to us. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Emily.
I was just curious, Rachel, if I know it won't be able to be done for tonight's meeting, but if there was a way to do a visual that I've seen like with landscape design where you kind of look like you're flowing through the playground, and it might be helpful for those to visualize what it's going to look like if you're a person standing on the beach, how you can see through it. I know these are lovely and all this, but I feel like it's hard to tell what somebody's going to actually see when they're there. Like I know you brought up, it's not going to be a restroom, it's not solid, but just to get that feel with, people around and how it will.
That's a great comment. So I do have the playground company working, like I said, on a more organic design for it. So they could definitely do that as well and add that to their imaging.
So I understand that the surface is like is an artificial mulch or something.
It's an engineered wood fiber mulch.
Okay, now what type of percolation or drainage capabilities does that have?
So it's excavated 12 inches deep And then it's engineered for the drainage. That wouldn't be an issue. It would be if it was on an incline in any way, but the land is very level there. That's another reason we chose that location.
Okay, so we wouldn't be creating essentially a hard surface and increasing the amount of runoff that would be
No.
going into the lake right there.
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure it wasn't gonna run off onto that sidewalk and into the beach as well.
Okay, more questions? Would we like to open it up for public comment at this point? Okay, good. Well, let's do that then. And so George Pete's gonna be our timer right here. And then, well, I think we should start, was it Tim who had a comment online?
Yes, Tim Patton here. Thank you.
Okay.
Would it be helpful if I activate my video, or are you fine with just the audio?
Whatever you please.
Okay, I'll leave it as just audio.
Okay.
I let them do a lot of Zoom calls, and I'm not the prettiest guy in the world. Don't like to be on video more than this, sir. So anyway, thank you for the time. I'll be brief. But again, as I mentioned, when you first gave me a chance to say hello, I've owned each of those properties on West Bay Street, other than the Stone House. And so I have, some perspective. And I think the real crux and the brief suggestion is just, rather than kind of push this through quickly, can we evaluate what it might look like if it was positioned more to the east, close to the boathouse, so that those people that own those wonderful properties, I don't anymore, I have no fight in the game here, would not have to have the structure, albeit somewhat transparent, and the activity right in what's otherwise their treasured views of the harbor. Can it be evaluated to move it closer to the east to the boathouse? And I would just ask for that to be considered. And I acknowledge your comments earlier that you're only to deal with this proposal rather than alternative proposals. So my comments may be somewhat mute, but I would encourage to delay this and to slow it down, and at least allow the consideration of another location within the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As long as we're online, let's continue with that. Is anyone else who's online? Would you care to make a comment? All right, we'll come back. You can think about it for a minute.
I think we have somebody that's unmuted.
Is there someone else online who'd like to speak?
This is Win Schrader. I don't know if you can see me or not. I don't see a button to push on the Zoom.
Yes, we see you.
Oh, all right. I'd like to comment on this. My wife and I happen to own the Stone House at 138 West Bay Street. And we've been summer residents in Harbor Springs for about 34 years, according to our figuring. And what I'm concerned about is the location, and not so much from our perspective. We're up in the air. We have a little bit more elevation, and we can see through, and we can see the harbor. But I think if this particular location is utilized, it's going to create congestion. We see in the summer that on a comfortable sunny day, that the beach fills up and then the green space fills up from the water going north. We see people having picnics. We see people sunbathing. And we also see games, frisbee, different types of ball games, which I can't say what they are because I don't know. And so that's the area where most of the people are when they are at the park. And having the playscape where it is presently being considered it's going to cause congestion. The play area is a single use. In other words, I don't think you can have picnics there on the monkey bars. Maybe some people do or can. And so people are continuing to walk around that area, and they are being forced away from the beach and the green space directly adjacent to the beach. I'm aware that there is a different plan being considered by some that's to the north and to the east. This would move the congestion away and allow people to vacation as they've done over all the years. The idea of view is certainly important, and as I said, our view is positive, and it certainly is not a problem. And so I would think that you still have the same to the east, over the east and towards the north. There's plenty of space over there. And another thing is where this is now being considered, it does cause, again, congestion, particularly for the car show. But we have seen over the years the coastal crawl, and we have seen the other activities.
Mr. Schrader, you've hit your 3 minutes. Could you sum it up for us?
I would like to see the area, the playscape area, moved up to the north and to the east. I think that's a lot more acceptable for the people that use the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else online here to raise their hand? Okay.
Are we allowed to ask these?
You can ask a question of someone, yes?
I would.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Schrader,
Yes.
if you lived on State Street, would you care about this as much as you do now?
I don't know where I'd be living on State Street.
That's just a what if. If you didn't live across the street from this, would you care?
We observe more, we know more.
Well, I have to care because I see what's going on. I see how that park is used, and I see this to be an object that doesn't really go with the way the park has been used in the past. So to the answer, if I lived on State Street, no, I probably wouldn't care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online like to comment?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment. I just can't raise my hand. I don't see a function there.
Sure, go ahead, Mark.
My name is Mark Russell. I'm a landscape architect at 114 Racine Street in Northville, Michigan. I'm not a resident, obviously, of Harbor Springs. I do visit there and try to get up there as much as I can to not only enjoy the water, but also some friends that I have in the community. We have quite a bit of experience designing parks, and a part of our work is to seek alternatives for different uses as they are programmed generally by the Parks and Rec Commission, sometimes by the public, or a combination of each. To Mr. Schrader's point, I kind of concur. I think it's a good spot because of its proximity to the crosswalk to the Upper Zorn Park. I think having a playground there is more of an introduction into that piece. And I guess what I'm talking about is like east of the Cannon area. You do have some trees in there. Granted, you do have a sidewalk in there, but considering the size of this structure or these structures, it's approximately 30 feet by 80 feet or so. And I know it was previously set up in a linear fashion. I think we can still accomplish that over on the east side, the north and the east side. I do agree with Mr. Schrader again about the open space. I do feel that having a playground adjacent to the beach, I think would certainly increase the use in that area. But also, I think it might be, as Mr. Schrader said earlier, may be congested. I do think that having the playground potentially located adjacent to the sidewalk that connects up to Bay Street, and then also the sidewalk that crosses from Upper Zorn, in sort of that area, I think it would function well. I think there are pathways there currently that could afford the accessibility that Mr. Michelangelo spoke to earlier. And I believe Rachel did as well. I do think having it tucked away in the corners in a similar fashion as what's being proposed, while still maintaining the optimum views and usability and function of the waterfront. So I think there, again, I'm not trying to dictate where this structure ends up, but I do think there's opportunities for other locations that potentially should be explored. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Russell. All right, let's go to the room. Would anyone care to comment? Ma'am, you were the first.
Hi, my name is Betsy Saul, and I live at 7 Woods Drive, which is off of Glen Drive, not looking onto this park. But this is my beach, and I use the beach quite often with my children and grandchildren. And I observe how wonderful, I sometimes I like to sit in that far corner where the equipment was, and I observe the beach, but I see that most people are on the green grass area where this park would be. And it's older people, and maybe they're having a picnic, but I think a lot of people just sit there. And I did make a comment, not knowing anything about this playground, to my daughter. I said, isn't it funny? Nobody is ever on that far end over there. Never. They just don't go over there. They just stay close to the area. I would like to make a suggestion like everybody else. I see how the park is used, and I think you are taking away valuable space from older people who don't want to sit in the sand. And a lot of the children really enjoy playing. I think the playground should be there, but I think they do also enjoy when it's time for the beach to play in the beach. And I would hope my grandchildren don't have to go on the playground, that they can play on the beach. But if they do, one of us can walk over and watch them a little farther to the east side. So I would like to see the planning commission consider that spot, because I think it's best for our community. And I have lived here for.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Chairman Mulder, thank you for starting off the meeting with the question that you asked to everybody care about Harbor Springs. Does everybody have an interest in preserving what's right and doing what's right for this community?
Excuse me, your name and address?
I'm sorry. I'm Patrick Kenny, and I live next door to Mr. Strader. I live on the park side, and perhaps let me address the question that, is it Thoma?
It is.
Okay, Mr. Thoma. So if I was living anywhere else other than where I have been for 35 years, would I have the same perspective? I may not have the same perspective, but I certainly would have the same interest, and that is to preserve what nature has been given to us for all to use. And when I say nature, I'm looking at that Lower Zorn Park as being such a special place of all of Harbor Springs. It is, by all measures, the most iconic grassy open space that we have. It is a beautiful, beautiful location. And so if I was living somewhere else, I certainly would be enjoying that space every time I drove past it, every time I used the park or the beach. And so there's no question. I would like to say too, to the point of having the opportunity to sit on the beach where I do, next to the park and over the park, as like Mr. Strader, my view vantage point is higher. So frankly, the view would be not obstructed. It certainly would be changed. But my concern is not only that, but it's the fact that that park and that location is an iconic spot for all generations to use, from all ages. And I've witnessed it for over the 35 years that I've been here. To support what you just said, that is where grandparents picnic with their younger families. That's where kids throw baseballs. That's where the Frisbee is thrown. That's where impromptu games of tag and other games are played right there. I will mention too, and I'm trying to go fast because I know my time limit. There's two very large shady trees that are not depicted on that graph. And that is just, they're very, very large, and they provide a beautiful sense of shade. There are new trees there as well, but because of those shady trees, It gives the optimum spot for gathering, for picnicking, for doing exactly what is being done in that location. It's the highest density and most used location of the park. There's no question about that. So are we in favor of having a playground? Absolutely, we are. Is there other locations outside of Lower Zorn Park to consider? There may be, but I'm not contesting that. I'm suggesting that we can find a better location in Lower Zorn Park to accomplish all of the things that you're saying. And Mr. John, I don't know your last name, I can't pronounce it, but I want to address your opinions of the 5 points that you made in your report. Each one of those, how am I doing on time?
You just ran out.
Oh, no, okay, well,
You have something for us, that's great too.
I'm sorry?
If you have something for us, that's great too.
Well, I wanted to, if you don't mind taking a quick look at this drawing, this is a drawing. It's not finalized. It is a drawing that provides the potential for having the location. The key point that I want to show is that you'll see that this has no encroachment from a zoning perspective. And I know the planning board is pertinent to that. The setback would be over 40 feet from the sidewalk. So there is no issue from that standpoint. The grade of that property right there is of similar grade as confirmed to me by landscape architects as the space that is being proposed. So the cost for the grading would be no different. It would be to the, on the sidewalk would remain as it stands, and it would be on the other side of the sidewalk with another adjoining sidewalk that could come and wrap around it. So all of it would be ADA. We could plant plenty of flowers, plenty of shrubs, plenty of beautiful nature, and leave the rest of the park open for everyone to use without then disrupting the center. And Mr. John, one last point. You said that it doesn't take much space of that area, but what I don't think you're recognizing is exactly what this woman said. That is the most highly used area of the park. And the sides of the park, the size of the playground are going to be taken away. So it's taking up more space than what's just the footprint of the space by virtue of the people.
Understood, excuse me, in fairness to everyone, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm very passionate and I apologize. I've not ever done a meeting like this, so again.
You did very well, very well. Yes, ma'am.
Sandy Wolf, 577 East Bluff. My concern is, and maybe this has been addressed, but what about the thousands of people who come to the car show and the art fair, and are we encroaching on that property? And I question the need for a park structure, I'm sorry.
You certainly will be encroaching if you do
this.
this.
Our city, but again, the numbers are taking land away from that.
Okay.
Since the comment was made, do I have an opportunity to say?
No,
No, I spoke at it.
everybody gets one shot, 3 minutes. On a hot issue like this, we've got to keep it. Right? But I think I know what you're going to say, so message is landed. Mr. Kenny?
So the art show predominantly uses Upper Zorn Park. They would still have plenty of room in Lower Zorn.
In the past, so they've gone down below.
Yeah, they would still have room. And then the car show, when we spoke with the chamber, they supported the project because they had already looked at expanding for other areas. Because they knew they would have to do in the future. And
Just so proud of them.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wolf, to take your point. Who else would like to comment? Yes, Miranda.
Hi, Miranda Miller, 651 Second Street. First of all, I want to just historically say that I have a 26-year-old son that is a single parent and an only parent. When my son was a baby, that park and that water was near and dear to me because I didn't live near the water or anything. And on a hot day, you don't want to be on that sand with a baby, a senior, anybody, and that grass was packed for that very reason. So I'll reiterate, generationally, I'm also on the senior center board here at the Friendship Center and Perry Farm, and my seniors are very concerned. If that thing goes in there that big, and then you'll be adding benches for parents around there, the seniors they'll have no shade. They can't go down there and enjoy things like they used to. Also, Ms. Rowan states here in her, what she wrote, this playground, Zorn Park, fits the overall character of Zorn Park. A 2,770 square foot playground, which is the size of a large ranch house in the middle of this park, in no way, shape, or form fits the character of Zorn Park Beach. It never has and it never will. You will be changing. And then number 3 says, enhancing and improving existing public space. Improving versus defacing are 2 different things, and I feel this is defacing the park. It's urban blight, this is 3,000 square feet, basically. I'm all for putting it on the end where we used to have, the food truck was there from Pam, whose husband, ran the food truck down there for years. That was a huge lunch area. Everything fit there. There was no reason why we couldn't put it down there. I did notice the same equipment here was not at 2,700 square feet. Why can't it go back into the same square footage? And the definition of green space listed on here kind of slides back and forth. On 7, it says the city is losing some grass. Some have expressed concern about this. However, they're referring to grass as manicured nature. And then 9, it says the city is not losing open space or green space. And then it says thus open space. And then, of course, there's a sliding definition of, this is a very nebulous definition of green space. It is open, it's contiguous, it is green. And I don't think we need the EPA to tell us otherwise, because that's what they want. And another point I'd like to make out is that somebody brought up the best practices, which is that is the redevelopment ready community that we are a member of here in Harbor Springs. So I'm starting to think that perhaps this 2,770 square feet is a requirement for the redevelopment ready committee, which Ms. Roon also is the head of the RRC, and this would fill RRC requirement more than, an overall that we would say we want a smaller footprint, but it has to be 2,770 square feet. Probably nobody here knows what the redevelopment ready is, but the best practices is the handbook for the RRC. So I think there's a 2-pronged thing possibly going on here, seeing that Ms. Room runs both the RRC and is head of the parks. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Anyone else like to comment? Mr. Potter.
Yeah, Andy Potter. I live at 815 Ottawa. And to address Mr. Toma's question, I do not live down there. I live on Ottawa Street. It matters to me. I use that park every day. So keeping that green space open is a big concern of mine. Another question I have of this planning commission is the city already purchased 150 yards of playground mulch and it's sitting behind DPW. So if you deny this site plan, what will the city be doing with the mulch? Second, my understanding is that playground or that park was funded through grant funding several years ago. And that property is supposed to be unfettered per the grant agreement. And I want to know, Mr. Grimm, Mrs. Roon, what did the state say about keeping that unfettered? Thank you.
And Andy, I take your point. And for other folks in the audience, do you have any comments or any thoughts about how this relates to the master plan or to the zoning code that would help us reach a decision tonight? The way you read it, is there anything you picked out that would have this non-conforming with the planning, with our plan or anything like that?
Does that allow us to have another 3 minutes? Because I do know the answer to that question. I'd love to jump in if I can.
Why don't we hold on it? All right.
Okay, fair enough.
Roger, did you?
Yeah, I have a lot to say here. I got 3 minutes. Roger Haynes. My family came here in 1893 from Lima, Ohio. One of my concerns about this is safety. What's going to happen 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? Is kids going to be playing down there and getting hurt? I think it's something to be addressed. I don't feel that it's a good idea for a number of reasons. My grandmother's brother was killed in World War I And when I go down there, I look at that property, the fountain, all the water and the, everything. To me, it's sacred ground. With the fountain, the plaques. I just feel that, I think playgrounds are for schools, not beaches. That's the way I see it. And I just feel that I was actually looking at it today, and it's not that big of a space. And it's just like other people have said, there's not that much room when the place is congested, like all these people have mentioned. How much time have I got left?
90 seconds.
90 seconds, okay. I think that there's a better solution to the problem. I feel that there's a number of issues there with a guy like me that's been here so long. I'm not against putting in playgrounds, but I do feel that that particular location is a bad idea. And I thought about it. This is not something that I just made up tonight. I heard about this a while ago. And I thought about it and looked at the space and everything else. And to me, who I am and the space and the, having my relatives on plaques, I just feel that I just have a concern about it. So that's just the way it is. I've been here a long time, and I just feel that I think there's a better piece of property somewhere else to do this. So.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Haynes.
Okay.
Hi there, may I speak, please?
Hi, who's this?
Hi, it's Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. Married to Patrick, so we don't have to vote on anything together tonight. But in reviewing the master plan, which is phenomenal and is quite exciting as a resident of Harbor Springs, looking just at some of your costs in your projects for the upcoming years, we have $50,000 to $300,000 projected for Marina Park. We have $150,000 projected for Costaquat Park. I may be pronouncing that wrong. So those are just two things that jump out at me in terms of beautification and parks and playgrounds. We were around and we actually voted for the removal of the tennis courts for more green space in the city. It's a beautiful area. It's phenomenal. It's well utilized. We use it for all the music. And that's us personally as a family. But if you look at, in speaking with different city people, there's actually a Marina Park Committee in 20 and 21 that has been established to completely preserve and look at the utilization of Marina Park. Now, the Zorn Park area is bigger and more waterfront, but we don't have a dedicated group to be looking at that, which then would impact and perhaps look at this placement of this playground. I don't know if that committee still exists. Maybe if they're done with the Marina Park, they can roll over and look at Zorn Park on a big picture, futuristic purpose. Zorn is bigger. We have more foot traffic. We have more waterfront. We have more bikers. We have more daytime dwellers and frisbee blowers than Marina Park. But I feel like we're bigger and we're getting less attention down at Zorn Park. So I guess I would just like to propose a bigger picture and futuristic look from both the master plan, which involves the planning committee, as well as any, concerned citizens. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kenny. All right, any other thoughts in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Wendy Reed, 539 East Bluff Drive. Why there and why now? I don't think that anyone in the city has gone to the city council and said, please enlarge and move that playground. So why are you doing this? On whose behalf are you working?
Kids.
You have kids, Bob?
I
I
have
wasn't
great,
aware of
I
it.
have great grandkids.
And by the way, you don't live across the street from the beach, do you?
If you built it across the street from my house, I'd be thrilled. I like kids,
Then we'll
I
move it
like
across and we'll
activity,
put it
I
up on
like.
Lake Street across from your house.
And
That's a
Bob,
great suggestion.
Okay, Ms. Reeves.
Well, I think.
If you could
your
continue,
comment
you were on a
is
roll there.
Is not placed correctly. Everybody is
Mr.
in
Kenny,
favor.
we just can't have
I
everybody.
understand that,
talking.
but when a comment comes out on the table like that, I think it's misleading. And I think it's a direct attack against the community who's come here with passionate reasons to be here. And to say that I'm not in favor of children, which is the implication of, it is the true implication.
Yeah, let's
And
turn it
that
back over to Ms. Reeves.
It's
My
wrong.
3 minutes starts over now, thanks to Mr. Toma. You could have put the existing playground equipment back where it was. We wouldn't even have noticed for care. No one's asking for it to be enlarged or moved.
Okay.
If this number of people come to the city and say we're not in favor of this, why is it going to be pushed upon us? Because you know better than us? It's our city. Now, if you were to put it at Coosaquat Park, there's a nice playground there. It can get enlarged. Nobody would object.
Thank you, Ms. Reeves. Anyone else like to comment? Ms. Morris.
In Morris, 525 Ann Street, and I do have grandchildren that use that beach and that park. And I have to agree with a few people here who have said, yeah, I sit down close to the beach, my grandchildren are small, but if you turn around and look, that area where they're proposing the playground is where a lot of the families are sitting. It is shaded, it's where the older people prefer to picnic. I have grandchildren who would love to use the playground, but I think that area should be for all the community and not just for kids.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Any other thoughts or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Renee Morris, 527, is it 527? 527 Ann Street. I do have little kids, her grandkids, and to address you and to comment on hers, I don't see the need for a new park. I see a need for updating the parks that we have and making those better for our kids. And if you actually want to bring something better into the community, maybe consider something like a splash pad somewhere in the town where you can draw in more families if that's what y'all want. But even that should be somewhere else other than maybe down there at Zorn Park. I just know that my kids love playing at the park. I wish there was a park that they could play in that was a little bit nicer than Shea Park, because during school year, we can't play there because of the school kids. So in my opinion, if y'all want a new park, give us a park that our kids can go to at all times and not just, you know, during the summer at the beach.
Thank you. All right, sounds like momentum is dying out. People are going to have their say. And it comes back to us with our 2 documents that we revolve around, and that's the zoning code and the master plan. And so what would be very helpful for us is if someone does have specific comments regarding how this plays with the master plan, and you could point us at the right paragraph or the right goals, that would help us a lot. Mr. Kenny, I'm going to give you a second shot so you can help instruct us on this.
Thank you. Well, if you look at your master plan, you took a detailed survey from the committee. Are you familiar with the
From the
survey?
community?
From the community at large. And in that survey, you asked the question, what is the most important aspects of Harbor Springs? Over 98% of the people that responded to the survey pointed to access to the waterfront and to the open space of having waterfront availability. The continuous option of having an encouraging open water space access. Again, I'll say this, we are not against a playground. We are in favor of children playing. My kids played on that playground. I think it's wonderful that the Reynolds family donated it. I believe that we've got a different option for Lower Zorn Park that would solve the issue of placing that playground back up and preserving the open space that your survey and your planning has clearly identified as being so critical to the community.
But could you help us? I mean, could you give us a reason not to approve this thing?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Who's speaking?
Hi, this is James Kenny. I'm actually Patrick's son as well, and I had a chance to review the master plan at length.
Great.
And so I apologize that I can't be there in person, but I truly believe that the master plan does not support this document. Goal 1 states that the city of Harbor Springs will retain its distinctive natural character. It goes on and it lists the very components that zone park, why zone park is special. It mentions the waterfront setting, the native plants, the abundance of trees and views from and of Little Traverse Bay. This proposal would greatly alter this, as it's replacing the trees and the grass with mulch and steel. It then goes on to say, I think this is goal 4B, I want to say. It states continue enhancing and improving existing public spaces for the benefit of all users. And I know the city manager in his memo, he wrote that physically or otherwise disabled children will now be able to safely access this equipment. I think the emphasis there is access. They may be able to access it, but unfortunately reviewing it, it doesn't look like they'd be able to use it. None of the current equipment is ADA compatible. In order to do so, and this is just my, I'm by no means a playground expert, but it would need ramps, it would need transferring equipment that currently are not in place. And I know the city's worried about a potential lawsuit, and I think that would open up the city to a lawsuit. So I think that this needs to be further explored, and I think it contradicts goal 4B. Goal 10 states any harbor development or redevelopment should strive to maintain open views to and from the water for the public to enjoy. I know I can't think of his name, but the expert there said that the views would be minimally impacted. But if you look, the slide's pretty bulky. Some of that equipment's pretty bulky, and it would obstruct the view. And so just some other comments too from this memo that was introduced. The city claims that the open space won't be lost. They cite the EPA definition to support this. I think if you guys all closed your eyes and pictured what an open space included, you wouldn't be picturing a playground in the middle of it. And then also, I think an important comment that someone else alluded to, and that's alluded to in the memo, is about this issue about replacing the grass with mulch. I think the city manager is in favor of this and indicates that it wouldn't need to be mowed. However, the mulch still will need to be maintained every day after kids play with it. Who's going to do this? There's a lot of geese down there. Who's going to clean up the mulch after the geese are in there? It's also not the most cost-effective for a playground. Again, in my brief research here, it may be cheaper up front, but in the long term, it's more expensive than a material such as known as porin. Porin is actually more.
Mr. Kenny, you've reached your 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up here. Porin's it's more attractive, it's safer. It's my understanding that this hasn't been explored, and so I think like I mentioned, I don't think that the master plan supports this current proposal, but there's certainly other options out there that would be consistent with the master plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Mulder.
Deanna Mulder, 372 West Summit. I also am a landscape architect and also chair of the Parks Board. I'm not speaking in that capacity tonight, though. Just a few things that I wanted to touch on. I feel that Lower Zorn already has a sense of place. Beautiful green space, yes. And I think an important aspect, though, is the Veterans Memorial. And I feel this second location that's being proposed east of the cannon doesn't take into account the fact that the playground will be virtually on top of the cannon. And when you're up on Main Street walking down the sidewalk, and I did do this myself, and look through the fountain pavilion there, the stone fountain pavilion, that's what you would see as the playground. So I feel that it would violate that space, and then we're not thinking about our veterans and honoring them. I like the location that is proposed right now. We've looked at a number of scenarios, and I guess that hasn't really been talked about much, but one of them is making the playground smaller, eliminating a piece, making it fit more with the space like a triangle. One thing that's not shown on that plan, somebody said, are the mature trees. So there's two big ones on the curved walk that goes, the promenade that goes around the beach. And then there's another one in between those, and then two more that go up along the sidewalk that parallels Bay Street. And one of the things we're looking at is just tucking a small playground into that little grove of trees where I think it would blend in nicely. We've also talked about painting all the pieces, you know, a harmonious color like green or tan or brown or something like that. So that it looks like, you know, it was planned. And yeah, we've talked about poured in place that, you know, there's not much budget for that right now, but it would be a tidier solution. Which
Thank you very much. Last call.
Hey, Bill.
Roger, you had your time?
A minute yet, a minute.
No, we gotta turn this back to the commission now and bring this to,
I just had one more important thing I want to say.
all right.
Can you give it to me?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing I forgot was for Memorial Day, it's a big deal here. And there's a lot of people that go, you know, for the ceremony down there in that space. I mean, there's gotta be 1,000 people at least. I still feel, I just don't feel that that's the place for it. And they shoot the guns off and it's a ceremony. The Legion has a lot to do with that. They have a lot to say. I just think that it's gonna complicate things so bad that people are gonna be tripping on stuff they could. There's so many people down there for that particular day. I feel that, I just really feel it's not a good idea.
Okay.
That's all, Bill.
Thank you very much. All right, let's turn it back. Mr. Kenny, we just can't. Ms.
Well,
Miller, we just can't.
I just have one, can I just
I
ask
know,
a question?
But I think it's fair only in that if Ms. Mulder is a representative of the Parks Board and is speaking, that we give an opportunity to respond to that comment that was made. And I want to respond directly to the memorial that she's referencing, that the fact of the matter is we've not looked at the proposed option. There isn't a proposed option other than what has been quickly drafted. So we need to deal with
members of the audience.
one last
Remember,
question.
we cannot decide to move this play structure somewhere else. That is not in our purview here. All we can do is decide to approve this request or deny this request.
I know, the only reason why it's being referenced.
Mr. Kenny, please,
But-
this is too much.
Okay, fair
You
enough.
made your point superbly, eloquently. It's been very helpful.
I have just a question, 10 seconds.
No, we
Can I ask
can't.
one
We are
question?
turning this back over.
But if this is such an important issue, why not allow for more time to talk?
Because
I just have a question.
We're all on the same page. We raised our
we
hand.
did raise our hands.
So why can't we have more time?
Because we can't get into a discussion. Now, I do see Maggie who hasn't spoken yet. Let's try Maggie.
So Maggie Lacy, 315 East Third Street. Couple of words keep on coming up, congestion. I do have a problem. Harbor Springs is not very big, but we seem to be putting a lot of stuff in one location and we're not looking to scale. And if you look at the zoning and the master plan, it does say natural beauty and open space. So we are really limiting what we're doing in that space. But two, looking at the materials that you're using, the chips, be it them permeable or whatever, you still will have the wind that will pick up those chips, that go into the sand, that will go into the water, which will go into the boathouse. I don't think that you guys have really thought through what those chips are going to do to that area, especially with geese that are in the place. You guys bought a geese machine to pick up the geese poop. It's not working. You're out there doing it by hand. I believe there are consequences and we need to look forward on what is taking place in that park before we make this decision. And so more time needs to be taken into consideration with this, the materials being used.
Got it. Thank you. Miranda, a question, please.
Yeah, it's just a quick
That's the
one
last
for Rachel.
comment.
I'm just curious about the square footage of 2,770 square feet that actually has increased from 2,030 square feet. Is this a square footage that we have to adhere to because this is a state of Michigan standard through the best practices?
No.
And is this footprint cannot be reduced because of that?
No, it has nothing to do with the RSC committee. It's simply just the fall zone from what the playground inspector came up with.
So
So if he designs it differently, then the square footage, like if we took a piece away, then the square footage would change. If the fall zones, like if you see on the, I don't think it's in here, but some of the fall, any fall zone we could have overlap, we did. Specifically for that reason, and that's why I'm working with him further to try to bring that square footage down. Won't be a lot.
It went up. It went up from the first plan, now the second plan here, it's gone up 40 feet. It was 2,730 and now we're to 2,770.
It should be the same. Is what it was.
According to
From
the
benchmark.
paperwork before.
That's the square footage.
I think it's important to note that we're doing a lot of tweaking on this, so it's not beyond, I think there'll be a compromise at some point, whether it's location or whether it's size of the playground.
But to answer your question, I was not doing that.
But so we don't have to stay
No.
at 2,000, so we
Okay,
can make it smaller.
okay, we've got to take this back to the planning commission. It's time to bring this to a head. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to close public comment.
There's a motion to close public comment.
I second that.
There's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, commissioners, you've heard a lot of input. And let me restate that our, the only thing that we can decide tonight is to approve or to deny this site plan request. And the two documents we have to go by are zoning and the master plan.
Can you delay the decision? Is that another option to give the board?
Planning commissioners, how do you feel about this proposal?
I was actually considering that in that I think, I wonder if people might, like I commented before when I asked Rachel, if they can visualize what it's gonna possibly look like with a video, type lands that the landscape designers can do, that may or may not give some, I'm having a brain freeze, just a visual of what it would feel like to be at the park. So that's my only thing I thought would be helpful. So.
Jerry, what do you think?
So, I mean, my comments are, this went to many departments, so Parks and Recreation took a look at this. This went to City Council, they looked at it. A third-party planning, engineering, environmental firm looked at this. So, I mean, this has been vetted out and just a lot of resources have been involved in this. And I think we would be second guessing our other colleagues in city planning and Parks and Recreation and just the way things were kind of set up. So I think first that, second, we can relocate it to another park. So this was in place in general, correct. And I think this was donated originally and it has to stay within Zorn Park. So I think just the conversation of relocating it to another park is kind of mute. So also I think that, 80% of harbor is commercial marina. I think that, us fighting over 2,700 square foot of a playground that once took over 25% of the beach, which is kind of, I think, worse view, blocking the view to just another location, which I feel it gives more open space as far as the view of the water. Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on where we're going with this.
Rick, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm sort of thinking that we're a government of the people and we have rules and we follow them. But I think when the majority of the people are against an idea that maybe we need to look further into it and maybe explore other areas. So I think maybe it's either time to table it or send it back to the Park and Rec and see what they can come up with as an alternative.
If this was a private party bringing this to us, they would have to decide if they wanted to table this or to wait a while. They haven't, city hasn't said that, or the applicant hasn't said that in this case. But, I guess we do have the ability, we could table this if we wanted to. Now, another clarification is if we approve the site plan, it doesn't mean it's going to get built or it must get built. happens all the time. We approve a site plan or we approve guest quarters and it never gets built. And the approval runs out after a year or whatever. So approval tonight would not, necessitate this thing being built as it's proposed.
I think we also need to remember, with your comment, is you said the majority of the people are against it. That's the people that came here tonight to speak, or maybe have, or letters that we received, or letters in the paper, but I'm sure there are possibly people out there that are for it as well.
But they didn't come
But
and
we don't-
express
They
it.
did not, no.
So I'm basing it on what I've got in this packet, what I've seen in the newspaper, and all these nice people that have come to voice their opinions. So
I mean, I think there were in the packet, and also I think timing wise, at 5:30 meeting during the week, younger families work and have other obligations. So I think we have to take that into consideration as well.
Bob?
Oh, I say, let's get it over with. Let's do it. To postpone, it just brings more meaning to the word. The wheels of government grind slowly. Let's make a decision.
George?
I would be inclined to deny this request. It's really difficult for me to say that because, it's like, oh my gosh, you must hate kids. This couldn't be further from the truth. We don't have a lot of open green space on the water. The point that a lot of these people have brought up, I've spent a lot of time throughout my entire life at this beach, and that is unquestionably the most congested spot and the most sought after. If you're not going to be in the sand, you're on that corner. That's the spot. So that kind of takes it away from a lot of people. Also, with regard to the master plan, I don't really think that this fits with a lot of the points that were brought up in this memo. It certainly doesn't improve the view shed. It just doesn't. No matter how you cut it. I'm not super thrilled with, putting a bunch of plastic mulch near the lake. That doesn't really excite me. And yeah, I also feel like, and that's just kind of the biggest swath. We used to have the playground equipment. I played on it when I was a kid in the beach, which was awesome. But we have too many rules now. So can't do that, which is too bad. Because that was pretty spectacular to have a slide going into the lake. So yeah, I have friends in town with young kids who would love to see this happen, but I don't know. I don't think it's for us. I think we greenlit a lot of development, and we've been going at a pretty fast pace in this town. Just going, yeah, and then in the name of, of commerce and expansion and growth, and it's going pretty quickly. Every time I drive around, I just see more and more houses and more accessory buildings, more and more paving, and less grass, less trees, more water runoff, which has happened behind my house. And 119th closed, so yeah, I don't really support this one.
Thank you. Well, from a master plan perspective and from the analysis of how it's going to be used and the support for it, I agree that it belongs there. Or it belongs, the activity belongs there. The actual location, though, I think, because I just wonder, I think that it could be argued that there's one too many activities for this, but you used to have the playground as a different location, so I think that's neutralized. The size and shape, I think, is something that needs to be explored a little bit more, because as it is now, it's very difficult to look at the site plan and understand the scope of this, because you don't have the trees, you don't have the monument, you don't have a lot of other things on there. That'd be very helpful if we could see that. And I think that would help with the location conflict. If you were to show that better and just simply showing graphically what this thing could look like, in plan where it's like more organic and it's not this big square sticking out in the middle of the park, I think that would help tremendously in your argument to have it. So from the one side, I think it belongs, but from just the presentation side, I don't have enough information. Because even with all the if this were up in 3D so we could see it, that would be very helpful for everybody to understand is how much of the view is actually being blocked and not being blocked. So at this point, I would not be supportive of it, but I am open to the idea. This current package just doesn't work for me.
In response to that, you have a third option other than approving or disapproving. If you feel that you have insufficient information to make a decision tonight, you could table the item for next month's meeting and ask the applicant to come back with further information that better provides you the answers that you need to make a decision.
Vanessa?
So, yeah, I'm kind of going that route as well. I think it's consistent with the master plan. It's a use that took place there before, it's taking there again. The reason why it is changing is because the regulations have changed. 5R is a wood chip, it's engineered wood chip, but it's a natural product. It does have to be maintained. But because of the height of the different equipment pieces, it's causing that type of safety surface to be put in there. I don't think it is representative of the sense of place and the sense of place that we try so hard to create in our designs. And so, but yet I hear that that's up for discussion and there's some organic discussion and discussion of sense of place, and you can do amazing things with playground equipment and developing that sense of place. And so I would just like it to come back with a little more consideration to the sense of place and the location and the configuration of it, and making sure that it goes through all of the necessary steps. So when it is coming here, it's not, hey, we're still looking at this.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to get a playground back in that park. I think that's an important thing for us. I don't like the location in this proposal. And so I don't think it fits the master plan, because it does interfere too much, in my opinion. So, I would oppose this proposal, but I definitely want to keep going on this, figure out something that's more acceptable to people.
Roughly, I heard a couple people in favor. Heard probably a larger number with some concerns about the design and being able to visualize this and maybe even give it a little more thought. So would somebody like to make a motion about one of the actions that we could take tonight on this request?
I can make a motion, trial motion anyway.
Let's try.
I would make a motion that this be tabled so that the applicant can come back with a more thorough site plan and better considerations to some of the things that were said tonight. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. We just aren't seeing this in this site plan. Looking at the site plan this isn't part of the motion. Looking at the site plan is a little scary because it just got a big square block in the middle of the park. So that didn't do you any favors.
Okay, so we have a motion under consideration to table this and to let the applicant come back with more information or a modified design or even the same design, once they consider it.
Okay, I second that. You're looking for a second, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I second that.
so we have a motion and a second to table this and ask the applicant to come back with more information and a reconsideration on a design.
When we say design, we're talking about pieces of equipment, the type of equipment, or the location, or all encompassing.
All encompassing.
All the above as far as I'm concerned.
There could be less, there
Because
could
there's-
be more, there could be a
there's-
different
There's lots of ways
configuration.
to do it.
Yep.
I just did it, so.
Yeah, and I think also it might be a little important is maybe just do a little functional use diagram. I don't want to throw out the word FUD, I'm sorry. But to really show how circulation and all of that can kind of work together so people can really start to see how the space is going to be used and really keep that sense of place, I think would go a long way. Maybe even further than just having some images of what this would look like in 3D.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table to table this decision on the site plan that's been submitted by the city of Harbor Springs for the play structure at Zorn Park. Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Let's do a roll call vote, Jeff.
Rick Tarczynski,
Yes.
Vanessa Warren,
Yes.
Emily Dubay,
Yes.
Bob Thoman,
No.
George Pete,
Yes.
Bill Mulder,
Abstain?
Mark Bidet,
Yes.
Barry Lustgarten,
No.
no. Al Dyken.
Yes.
That is 6 yes votes. That's a successful motion.
All right. So that's where we stand tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing the applicant come back with some modifications and some improvements. And thank you, everyone who came out tonight. It's been so helpful, and your input was well thought out and very sincerely received. Thank you.
So this has been great conversation. This kind of got put on our plate a little bit before we knew about the short-term rentals. Last time we were here till 9 o'clock. I'm hoping to avoid another really long night. Is it possible that we table the short-term rentals so we can have more discussion and more thought on it?
It's quite possible in my mind, and I feel like my productive span is about an hour and a half, and we've reached that. We've got a couple more pretty complex issues to talk about, short-term rentals and especially dwelling units. I'm thinking we would be better served to delay that either to the next meeting or to have a special meeting in the next 2 weeks.
Please keep in mind, Bill,
Yes, Jeff?
that we have more agenda items for next month. So if we postpone, we're adding to the length of the next meeting.
But we could have a special meeting,
You would like to do a special meeting to catch up on things, that's a choice that you have.
because I mean, we're kicking lots of things down the road now. I'm thinking we need to start catching up.
Yeah, agreed. I agree.
But I don't want to talk about short-term rentals at 9 o'clock at night.
No, it's an important topic and it's complicated. So how would people feel about a special meeting 2 weeks from tonight? That would be the 29th. The meeting's on a Thursday night, do it at our usual time, 5:30 to about 7 or 6.
Can't do that.
How do other people?
I won't be in
You'll
town,
be out of town.
but I can't vote on that issue.
Okay, so
That would work for me.
that would work.
It works for
Bob,
me.
are you available 2 weeks from tonight?
Yeah.
Rick, Emily, Barry cannot. Okay. Should we do that then? Sure.
I'd like to.
All right.
Yeah, we need to.
I think we need to catch up.
Meet it here?
Yeah, it'd be fun to come out.
Meet at the playground.
Oh, at the playground.
All right, then.
Bill,
Yes,
I just wanted to ask a question.
yes, ma'am.
If we had a statement prepared for this evening and can't be at the next meeting, it's written, can I submit the statement? and
Yes,
put it here in the
absolutely.
packet
We'd
situation?
love that. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone read it next time, or would it be available online that people could read when they open up what the
Sure.
agenda items are?
Sure.
Ashley, if you email that to me or anybody that has any thoughts or on this topic or any topic, anything that I receive before the packet is put together
Okay.
is included directly in the packet and is online for everybody to review and is submitted to the planning commission. Any information that I received after the packet is submitted is printed and given to the planning commission members at the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, then. To wrap things up, are there any other member comments? All right.
Did I hear a motion to have a special meeting
Oh,
on
yes.
September 29th?
Yes, I
to
move to
discuss
have
the
a
topic of
special
short-term rentals?
meeting on the 29th.
Is there a second for that?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion's approved. Special meeting 2 weeks from tonight, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Good. Any other member comments before we adjourn? All right, thank you very much.